Hi, I'm Sean Donaher, and I'm going to be discussing film language in the film An American in Paris, the 1951 film. The director of photography of the film is Alfred Gilks, and I am going to clarify that a lot of what I'm going to be discussing is going to be regarding cinematography, but as well as the art direction. I want to just do the two justice. Both art directors are Preston Ames and Cedric Gibbons. Um, Ames spent most of his career just being like a regular production designer, and was the lead art department for the film. But so he's really just largely responsible for how the overall film looks. But I am going to mention that Cedric Gibbons, um, during this time in his career, was like later on. Um, he was mainly just the supervisor for the art department, but he had a background in architecture. So I think it's really important just to clarify. I think a lot of the beauty and the life that he brings to either the sets or the real life videos or shots of Paris is because of his background in architecture. He was also probably responsible for a lot of the scouting locations that were done um, for like, especially like what I'm going to discuss very soon, the opening scene. His contribution was very, very important for the cinematographer, again, Alfred Gilks. Um, and both of them capture this very dreamlike and painterly vision of Paris. So super, super interesting. From the start, it's really quite amazing. We just start immediately with like the most touristy, most visited place of Paris. All the locations, but all these shots are like sweeping, like the cameras through um, the scene itself, like through the volume, instead of just like panning or tilting. So we go from some of the most touristy places to immediately, or not immediately, we gradually make ourselves and find ourselves into more of a, like the locals, and seeing their ways of life. And we end this journey from touristy areas to locals to the foreigner, the American, Jerry, played by the iconic Gene Kelly. It has this very kinetic feel to it all. It captures the beauty of Paris. It gives us very like you're on the journey with Jerry. Like you probably saw the course of what made him fall in love with Paris in the first place, which is really cool. And then seeing him live there and interact with the locals immediately. And also before I go into like a lot of the specifics of the film, um, I am just gonna nerd out real quick. The level of quality of like when you think about how heavy film cameras were back then, approaching like 70 pounds plus, like with the film and lighting equipment strapped onto it. It was very heavy back then. And all of these shots are moving. Like all of them. I don't like unless it's a conversation with two people like sitting down at the cafe, almost none of these shots are locked down on a tripod, which is kind of crazy. It gets to the point of like what what cinematography truly is. Motion pictures. So like utilize that, right? So it's what makes the difference of seeing this on Broadway where you're just locked down in your seat versus like being in Paris with them, dancing and moving around and tracking these characters. It all has like this energy to it. Like you're there, it's alive, and there's real people being interacted with. One of the first ones is um, the dancing scene with around the flowers, like all the bouquets with the kids. I expect it's probably like they're probably using like a 55 millimeter lens, maybe a little bit higher. So they can't be more than like 40, 50 feet away. But basically, I'm getting to is a lot of the camera motion, you can tell like how far away it is, because if it was a very, very tight lens from further away, all they would need to do is just pan and tilt. Unlike that, this is actually just moving around with them, around the choreography of the dancing, and through the groups of kids, which is like, I like, it probably wasted so much film doing that, like so many retakes, but I appreciate the effort. This whole film is filled with like little shots that probably would just fly by the radar for like most audiences, but it's the staircase shot. The camera's flying down the staircase with Jerry. He's like in a frantic, urgent hurry. The visual is connected to the storytelling. Jerry's hurrying in a frantic manner, and the camera's falling down the staircase with him and landing at the base of the stairs. And like, it probably took so much time to do that. I'm gonna mention now the painterly visuals that I touched on before. Um, a lot of the backgrounds of the film, most of them, are done with the use of matte paintings. That makes it actually feel like the city of art. Um, Little thing, I noticed they nailed the correct depth that the paintings are supposed to convey for almost all of them, and they put like an artistic spin to it almost. Like it's not like super hyper realistic. And a good example of this is whenever Lisa and Jerry are at the Seine River, and the painting behind them was like perfectly nailing the black levels, or like the darkness of the shadows, to whatever the film is capturing, like the real film reel is capturing, which is very, very difficult to do. Um, and at the same time, they're exaggerating the glow of the streetlights in the painting, and all the lights shining on cathedrals in the background. And they're carrying this through with the actual practical lights on set lighting them too, because it has this very glowy highlights on them. Like this right here is like a very harsh highlight on me. The white of my monitor is a very harsh fine line. Instead, they're making it very evenly lit on one side, like if you're doing a brushstroke, you know? Um, and it kind of has this cohesive atmosphere to it all, with the very clearly painted backgrounds, with the soft lighting that matches it all. It's very interesting. The other example of this painterly aesthetic is when Milo introduces herself to Jerry. Um, the establishing shot where Jerry's hanging up the paintings, that shot is really interesting to me. There's a few others like that scattered throughout the film, but I really like that one in particular because the framing of it is crucial, in my opinion. The bottom half is only them, really. And then the middle of it all is the extras and a lot of the props on set. And the background is just matte paintings, and layered matte paintings at that. So it has this really, um, like whenever you look at paintings from back then, a lot of the foreground with the subject in it does not have like a lot of other scattered props around it, you know, or small things to distract you from what the subject is supposed to be. And a lot of the stuff to fill in that volume of like a lot of paintings is usually behind the subject, and then the very interesting visual in the background most of the time. And that shot captures that. The whole top half of it is just showing the architecture and the beauty of Paris. Super awesome. Also, Jerry isn't just an American, he's a New Jerseyan. pretty cool. He's from Perth Amboy, which is awesome. Did not expect to hear that. The most memorable moment of the film is, of course, the ending. It does not hold back with the visuals at all. And it's the whole dancing sequence when he's in the sketch that he drew on the balcony. It's all pairing the painted backgrounds and actually painted uniforms that everyone's wearing as well. Very interestingly, it's not supposed to be realistic. It's supposed to be artistic. It's supposed to look different, not real at all. Almost like Jerry's experimenting with paints just to make the painting work, which is really cool because it's all in his head. I mention this moment in particular not only because it's like one of the most memorable moments of the whole film and the ending of the film, um, but because a lot of the painterly elements of it could just be drawn up to, oh well, that's a matte painting, so it just looks like that. But they have like very intentional uses of framing and lighting to keep that vibe going. So to pay off in the very end of the film is really interesting. Next is the use and showcase of all the dreams in the film. Really just like daydreaming. But the first one is when we see Henry imagining Lisa and talking about how awesome she is and uh, how she's like just a dream girl. And all of the sides of her personality are conveyed through that by very minimal backgrounds and monocolor sets, paired in heavy contrast with whatever dress she's wearing. Like it makes it really like you understand that Henry is just in love with her, like um, and discussing all of the sides of her is assisting the storytelling of it all, but also the visuals of it. So um, A plus job with the cinematography there and art department. Um, but the next example is when Adam is imagining himself. This scene tripped me out. But when Adam is imagining himself orchestrating the whole orchestra, played by only himself, and even one of the audience members by himself. The concept of the scene is very dreamlike to begin with, but paired with the visuals is the use of pin lighting. So when Adam emerges as the orchestrator and turns from silhouette to well lit, um, that's through the use of like pin lighting, which is fairly difficult to achieve, but has this very uh, whenever you memorize or try to think back on a dream and all the details are kind of fuzzy, it brought that feeling, at least for me, to life. So very clever idea of the dreams, and that's done through all the other members of the band played by Adam as well. All of them emerge from shadows, like he's thinking actively while he's daydreaming of, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then an audience member played by myself is also emerging from the shadow. So consistently hammering in that it is all just a dream through visuals. Uh, so a very, very good pairing with storytelling and visuals. So dreams are not just like a narrative part of the story, they're visual tissue as well. And uh, from Henry daydreaming of Lisa in the beginning, and the visuals tied to this dream girl quality, to Adam daydreaming of finally getting a standing ovation, and paired with all the dramatic lighting of an orchestrated theater, you know, and all the way to the ending of the film where Jerry is imagining this very painterly dream of finally seeing Lisa again. Um, And we go from very minimal color and lights in the sketch to a rough draft, which has some splash of color and characters in it, to the ending. Very vibrant paints and sets and lighting. Kind of throughout the journey of this painting, throughout the journey of this memory, or not memory, but dream, um, is very interesting. So, just like how Adam is actively thinking about the things he's daydreaming about and coming to his mind, we are going on the journey with Jerry, actively thinking of new ideas, new paints to experiment, and eventually meeting up with Lisa again in this dream. To wrap this up, the ending of the film is the perfect blend of all the visuals and aesthetics that we've seen before, of the daydreaming and the painting aesthetics of it all. By Jerry having a daydream of painting, essentially, and seeing Lisa. And throughout the course of the film, we see in each act one of the three guys having their own daydream about the things that they like or want. And it all is tied together with a very nice bow at the end of it. And is blending storytelling elements in the film with visual cohesive elements as well. And the ending might be jarring or boring, because of the duration of it for some, but for me, it was very interesting to see how Gilks and the other contributors for the entire art department perfectly captured this energy of the film with the ending, and I very much appreciate that. Um, I'm Sean Donaher. Thank you for listening to this video. All right, bye.